The religious love to pretend that they have proof for God or Jesus or whatever, but they never ever do, right? They have claims, and they're not bright enough to know the difference between the two. We've exposed their buffoonery time and time again, but I guess it never gets old, so let's do some more of that today. Fun times! We're back with part 2 of the video by Artifactum called "This New Discovery Shows That Jesus Christ is God." And it does absolutely nothing of the sort, but that doesn't stop the loony theist from playing make-believe, does it? Thanks once again to Samuel Schick for sending this in, and I'll tell you how you can do it with videos or articles or whatever at the end. So, without further ado, let's get back to it.
These areas were predominantly pagan, heavily influenced by Roman military culture, and lacked the urban networks thought necessary for the early spread of the faith.
Just to remind people from last time, he's talking about how an amulet was found in Germania that had a prayer about Jesus, and somehow that proves that Jesus is actually God. No, it only proves that there was someone who believed that Jesus was God. And it didn't even do that since we don't know any of the circumstances involved. For all we know, this guy stole the amulet from somewhere near Rome and then was just buried with it later on. This just shows how Christians leap to the most emotionally comforting conclusions without evaluating the actual data. It doesn't prove anything of the sort. Certainly not what the video is supposedly about, so hold your horses, Tex. You're not getting anywhere that easily. You're just making yourself look stupid. Mostly because you are.
The inscription demonstrates that even in a militarized and remote frontier, Christianity had taken root and was being boldly proclaimed.
That's bald rationalization, as if anyone is surprised. How does an inscription hidden inside of an amulet boldly proclaiming anything? This is all very common among the religious, though, but they insist on reading into things that which isn't actually there. This is a leap of epic proportions, but we see this among the religious all the time, right? Video after video after video that we watch, they're dashing downfield with a goalpost strapped to their backs because they really want it to be true. And that doesn't mean anything, does it? Being boldly proclaimed? Sure, one dude with a hidden inscription that we don't even know how he got it. Be serious. Oh wait, he actually is serious. I mean, seriously stupid, but what the hell else is new?
What makes this even more remarkable is that this was not a time of institutionalized Christianity.
Which is why it's even more absurd to claim that Christianity was being boldly proclaimed. Remember, this is one guy with a hidden inscription that we couldn't even read, and still can't read completely. And that's not being bold, is it? That's hiding it. They didn't find a bunch of people openly wearing crosses, which, granted, wasn't even a thing that early. The cross didn't even become a common Christian symbol until sometime in the 4th century CE. Imagery with Jesus on the cross, that didn't really come about until the 6th century. At best, early Christians might have used the sign of the cross or the fish as a secret way to identify other Christians. That's not being boldly proclaimed. That's being in hiding, which most Christians of the day were doing because it was all illegal. This proves absolutely nothing, except perhaps that Christians existed, which no one really doubts at all, so what's his point? I honestly don't think he has one.
There were no churches or state support to protect believers. Yet, this inscription proves that Christians in Germania Superior were confident enough in their faith to engrave their beliefs in stone.
So what? Because I know we keep coming back to it because we really have to. This video claims that this discovery somehow proves that Jesus is God. And it does absolutely nothing remotely of the sort, and even our video maker seems to have lost sight of that claim, right? No discovery of an artifact is going to prove a metaphysical claim. He's even vastly overestimating what this discovery might have meant. He's spending a lot of time reading into it, and I'm sorry, but he has absolutely no evidence that any of his claims actually mean anything. He just really wants it to be true, but since when has that meant a damn thing? Never. The answer is never.
Publicly declaring Jesus as God.
Declaring that they believed Jesus was God. There's a significant difference there. Not that they really care about that, which is why we're here to keep them honest. It's just not gonna work. Sadly, because they're not remotely concerned about being honest. That's got to be the major takeaway from this video, that these people are positively desperate to believe things which are not remotely evidentially justifiable. With that in mind, watch for it in other religious videos because you'll see it come up time and time again. Audacious claims that are absolutely not justifiable with the facts, pure wishful thinking because they really want it to be true, and a complete lack of any critical evaluation whatsoever going on. This is why we laugh at these idiots. Because they deserve it.
This challenges the perception that early Christianity's spread was slow or limited, and instead highlights the determination and resilience of these early believers.
Not really. You can't even show that Christianity spread at all, at least not with this example. It's making assumptions that are not justified by the data at hand. There are plenty of other alternate explanations, such as the aforementioned theft of the amulet, or maybe it was a gift and the guy didn't even know the inscription was inside. But it really makes me feel good to think it was true. That doesn't matter. Even if it is true, and there isn't any evidence to support it because we don't know what the dead guy believed back in the day, that still doesn't prove anything about Jesus. It only proves things about beliefs about Jesus. But belief is not fact. Seriously, it can't be that hard.
This inscription not only challenges historical assumptions about the spread of Christianity, but also directly contradicts Islamic claims about Jesus. In Islamic theology, Jesus is regarded as a prophet, a significant figure, but not divine.
Still playing make-believe, huh? Because what one person believed, or even if there were a lot of people in there and they all believed the same thing, that does not make what they believed a fact. Just because some random wanker thought Jesus was God doesn't mean that Jesus was God, any more than Muslims believing Muhammad split the moon in half means that that actually happened either. The beliefs don't prove anything. They don't matter. How they can be corroborated with evidence does, but he has no evidence for any of this, does he? He's just spinning an emotionally comforting yarn designed to appeal to his followers, and that is not impressive. This would never fly in a skeptical academic setting, would it? They'd be pointing out all the same stuff that I am. Probably more. There is no reason to believe any of this unjustified supposition, but the religious have to because they're desperate to believe it. Faith isn't fact. Just because you really want it to be true, that doesn't make it true. Seriously, get a grip.
Islam asserts that the belief in Jesus as God was a later development, often attributing it to the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, where it is claimed that Jesus' divinity was formally decided for political reasons.
Which still doesn't prove that any of it is true. As I said in the last video, this might change how people viewed the spread of early Christianity or what the early Christians really believed or when, but that doesn't do a damn thing to establish the truth of any of their claims, any more than it does today. The truth has to be justifiable with evidence, and there is no evidence here. All you can really say is that there was a corpse with an amulet. How it got there or what it means, that's up to interpretation. And unless your interpretations can be backed up with solid facts, it's still just a giant guess. It certainly doesn't establish that a real historical Jesus, which you still have no evidence for, was actually the son of a real existing God. You've got a whole lot more work to do there before you get anywhere remotely close, and the religious have got nothing.
The Frankfurt silver inscription, however, dismantles this narrative, dating back to the 2nd century, more than a century before the Council of Nicaea. It explicitly identifies Jesus as Lord and Son of God.
All it proves is that whoever made the inscription believed it, and we don't know who made the inscription. That doesn't mean it's widespread. It certainly doesn't mean that it's true. Granted, I think it was widespread among the relatively small number of Christians in the early days, but a widespread delusion is still a delusion, isn't it? Lots of people believed that Elvis was still alive, and the sightings happened for many, many, many years after his death. Tons of people believe that Bigfoot exists, or the Loch Ness Monster, or alien abductions, take your pick. That doesn't mean that any of those things are real. That's what it always comes down to, though, right? But it makes me feel good. So what? The only thing that matters is whether or not it's actually true. And the only way to determine if it's actually true is to have evidence. If it's not true, then you're just wasting your time believing it, no matter how good it might make you feel. This is something people need to get through their heads, and for the religious, they've got no interest in that at all. Sad, isn't it?
These are titles of divine authority, affirming his nature as both fully God and fully man.
No, affirming the belief that he was fully God and fully man. It's pathetic that I have to keep pointing this out, right? The belief doesn't make it true. Just because you really like the idea, that doesn't mean it's actually real. This is an entire video of someone just making themselves look like an idiot because they really wish it was true. Because they're really trying to appeal to other people who really wish it was true. But wishing doesn't change reality. Reality is what it is. That's why you've got to care what is actually real, what is actually true, and be able to reject the things that don't meet that standard and that can't be evidentially supported. What's in your head is irrelevant. What's in the real world isn't. Rent a clue.
This artifact shows that Christians believed in Jesus' divinity long before any councils convened to formalize doctrine. The wording of the inscription aligns seamlessly with New Testament teachings.
Again, so what? Now, if he just wanted to say, this changes how we view the historical context of early Christianity, I wouldn't be doing this video at all. Big deal. I mean, yes, it was a request from the peanut gallery, and it probably deserves a little more consideration because of it, but if that's all he was saying, I have a feeling that Samuel Schick wouldn't have sent it to me in the first place. Because if this is just evaluating new evidence for the historicity of Christianity, so what? Who cares? It's not exactly why this channel exists. It would get a, interesting, and then I just move on to something else. Because I don't really care about early Christianity. I care about the truth of Christianity. If Christianity isn't true, and given the evidence that we have, it isn't, then what difference does it make? It becomes a mere historical curiosity, nothing more. Now, if you're into that kind of thing, great, good for you. I don't care because I'm not. I really don't care. So I say again, so what?
For example, the title Lord reflects passages like Philippians chapter 2 verse 11, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father.
My book says a thing. I don't care what your book says. I care if you can tie any of it to objectively demonstrable reality, and for the supernatural stuff at least, and claiming that Jesus is God is a supernatural claim, you're not doing a very good job of it. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you can prove, and you can't prove jack squat. Let's be honest. And that's not something that the religious want to hear, but they're really, really bad at this, aren't they? Now, I know this is going to sound like a broken record, and that's not exactly my fault. He's just making assertions that he can't back up and bringing up irrelevancies that mean absolutely nothing because he really wishes that his beliefs were true. Wishes don't mean anything. All I can really do is just keep repeating big deal because he's not actually making a case. He's just making claims that he cannot rationally and evidentially justify. You know, he's being your typical Christian. And that's not exactly something to be proud of.
This discovery also highlights that these beliefs weren't isolated to a small group of Christians near Jerusalem. By the 2nd century, the understanding of Jesus as divine had already spread far across the Roman Empire.
Not necessarily. Again, you don't know the actual circumstances of how it got to be there in the first place. It was a protective amulet, so maybe it was given to the dead guy by a parent or a loved one to keep them safe. That doesn't mean that he shared their beliefs, does it? I mean, after I deconverted, or maybe it was while I was deconverting, I don't exactly remember, I had religious family and friends give me crosses and Bibles and stuff like that, and I didn't share their beliefs anymore, or at least I was on my way out of sharing their beliefs. This is not without precedent. Also, we know that the Romans did forcibly conscript Jews into their legions. Some did serve voluntarily, and for those people, the Roman military would often make accommodations to their religious practices. But that doesn't mean that this guy was a Christian. He could have been a Jew with a Christian parent or a loved one. We just don't know. That's the problem. Not knowing is not the same thing as making wild-ass assumptions that you do. The religious tend to do that, especially when doing so gets them where they really want to go emotionally. So I'm not sure just how much there is to say here. He's pretending that he knows a whole lot more than he demonstrably does. And that's kind of a problem, wouldn't you say?
Including to Germania Superior, a distant and pagan-dominated frontier. This widespread acceptance of Jesus' divinity by early Christians invalidates the claim that his divine status was a late, politically motivated addition to the faith.
But it does absolutely nothing to prove that any of those beliefs are factually correct, thus invalidating the entire video as wishful thinking and irrationality. And that's not really much of a surprise, is it? The religious pull this kind of stuff all the time. And it's not just Christians, because we see it with the Jews and the Muslims and the Hindus and many, many others. They just really want it to be true. And if they can pretend that something gets them closer to their cherished beliefs, well, they'll just go with it, even if it cannot be rationally or evidentially justified. Because at the end of the day, they don't really care if it's true or not. They, and lots of other people too, let's be honest, they need to get more comfortable with, we don't know. Because we don't, and they don't either. We know only as much as we have the evidence to back it up. All of the wishes and dreams and goalpost shifting in the world, that doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean these things that they really believe for emotional reasons are real. But they don't care about reality, do they? Not one bit.
What does this discovery mean for your faith?
Nothing, because I have no faith. Now, for the rational Christian, if such a thing actually exists, it should still be nothing because it doesn't prove anything at all. It might show that your views of early Christianity need to be adjusted, but the existence of early Christians doesn't prove that Christianity is true. It just proves that people believed it. I mean, I can go with that, big deal. What I care about, though, is the truth of Christianity or any other religion, and this does absolutely nothing to lend any credence whatsoever to the truth factor. The belief factor is irrelevant. Anyone can believe any load of cockamamie nonsense that they want. That doesn't make it true. Too bad the religious don't care about any of that, right? That's really sad.
Let the boldness of these early Christians inspire you to share the truth of Jesus today.
Nothing in this actually proves that early Christians were particularly bold. In fact, it proves quite the opposite. They hid their beliefs, even if we assume that everything that he's asserting is actually so, as we've come to understand. Their beliefs were outlawed, at least for another 100 years or so, and therefore they kept their light under a bushel. They were afraid, and given the circumstances, I can certainly understand that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of modern Christians who are desperate to make heroes out of the scared believers of the past, even when it is not evidentially warranted. They just want it to be true, and this is just childish hero worship. Nothing at all to be proud of.
If this story moved you, make sure to like, comment, and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights into the history and impact of Christianity. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.
I probably could have cut that last part because it didn't really add anything to the narrative at all, did it? But hey, I guess I was feeling charitable. This is not impressive. It's clear that he's only making videos for the already faithful because those are the only people who will watch without rolling their eyes. This is all completely unjustified. It's making big claims and providing nothing at all of substance to back it up. That's why they only talk to each other, because they're not bright enough to see right through the smoke screen. I'm sure this is how early Christians acted too. They didn't dare talk to others that didn't already share their faith, which is why they had secret signs to identify each other. They were scared, and probably rightfully so. They could be killed for holding these beliefs. Today, that's not really a problem in most places, is it? But most Christians still do this. They don't want to talk to anyone who isn't already part of their cult. That's why they spend so much of their time in their churches. That's why they feel safe, because nobody's going to laugh at their unjustified beliefs. Everybody else is just as dumb as they are. Not a lot of them are willing to go out and take a stand in public and pull down their metaphorical shorts for all the world to see. They are terrified, or at the very least they are uncomfortable, and they should be. Not for retaliation, because nobody should be physically attacked for being honest about your beliefs. They are just terrified of being laughed at. They believe really dumb things for really bad reasons that don't stand up to any kind of critical scrutiny whatsoever. You can see just how scared they are by just talking to them. And that's kind of sad, don't you think? Because I know I do. Anyway, thanks to Samuel Schick for submitting this video. He's actually got a couple more in the queue that I'm going to try to get to sooner or later, but I'm trying not to do these back to back either. If you see a video that you want me to take a look at, go ahead and send it my way. I need a direct URL to the video in question or article or whatever it is that you're sending in. I don't care. But if I get that, I'm going to add it to the list. And maybe if I decide to do that video, because the decision ultimately lays with me, you'll get thanked on the channel too. Let me know what you think of all this down in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.